Hello, MoB family. Good morning. That seemed a little abrupt. We're gonna have to find a way to kind of just make it fade out instead of just go bam and end. All right, let me say hello to everybody. Let's see. We are live on YouTube with 2 new subscribers. Hello, YouTube. Okay, so hope you guys are all doing well. I'm gonna drink some of this fantastic JAVAMBROSIA that Dolly made for me. Oh man, that fish is strong. Let's see. Hello, Marie. Morning, Chris. Hello, Enid. Hope I'm saying that right. Enid, yes. Hello, Heather. I think you might have been the first one in, Marie. Yes. Hello, Facebook user who I don't know who you are, but hello. And hello, Mary Beth. And yes, Peaches may say, hello, Renee, welcome. Peaches may say, meat is life, but we all know it's really coffee that is life. Or that allows basically the rest of life to function. So, yes. I hope you're all doing really well today. It's been an interesting morning. I did the school run early, came back, did a bunch of stuff. So, yes. Good morning, Wendy. Marie, you've been lurking for half an hour. Awesome. Well, I hope the lurk was good. I'm an expert lurker. And Renee, I added you to the newsletter in case you wanted an update on that. So yes, you've been added. So if anyone wants to be added to the newsletter and they don't know how to get, you don't know how to get to the webpage, which is www.orlandoasanchez.com, and you just put in your email there. You can PM me or Dolly and just say add me to the newsletter, and I will add you to the newsletter. So if you feel like maybe it's a little too convoluted to go the other way, you can always ask me or PM me, PM Dolly, and your email will be added. Marie. That's what I was doing. Recently, I read. What did I read? Listen, hold on. I read Ben Aronovich. I want to say. Dolly recommended this book. It was a pretty good book, but I couldn't get into the series for some reason. It was called River of London by Ben Aronovich. And it was good. It was the first book in the series. And I got through the book. But the lead character felt a little off for me, and for Dolly too. Like she was reading it, so like, but maybe you would like it. So I tried it.
And then I was like, you know what? I read the first book, but I don't think I can get through the series. There's more books in the series. I was like, yeah, I'm good. We'll leave it there, But it's a urban fantasy. It's very British. So if you like English writers, this is a very English story set in London. But I don't know. It was something about the story that threw me off. It was like something slightly off of it. So again, not every writer, not every author is for every reader. So that one is really not for me. But it's a good story. It just wasn't for me. Yes, Audrey, I can see your name now. Oh, excellent. Let me just put this up in case people need to, give StreamYard permission. Go there. Thank you, Chris Mon. Dos. And give them permission. And then if you give them permission, I will be able to see your name so that when you make a comment, I will know who it is without you having to type, it's so-and-so, This makes life easy. Was it with Old Man Thames? Yes. Yeah, and it was with Old Man Thames and Mother Thames, Marie. Yeah, like the rivers, all the rivers in the city are actually beings, which is that was an interesting story idea, yeah. And without giving away the story, the antagonist is a creature who takes over other people's bodies and deforms them. And he's like a police constable who's in the special division that deals with like the supernatural, basically. So it has some really interesting takes. The theme, the story, a lot of fun. The execution, for me personally, it left a little bit to be desired, only because I couldn't get into the writing itself, not the story, but the writing. So again, and that's just my opinion, and we're all entitled to them. He's a good writer, and I'm sure he has a huge following. Just wasn't for me. That's all. But I like the Old Man Thames. I like the Mother Thames and how the river was divided at a certain point with different territories, and how all the other little rivers that feed off the Thames were actually beings. So that was really interesting. So it was interesting in that regard, yeah. And the magic and how things work was also fun. But the story for me was, no, it didn't work. So that's okay. I'm sure people say the same thing about Monty and Strong. So yeah, you can say it's Cthulhu here. That's true. You can't. Then yeah, exactly. This is true. But maybe we can fake it, Tammy. In some other way. Like, you can't be anonymous, but you can, type in another name maybe. All right, I'm taking this off just in case. Bum, bum, bum. If anyone else needs to know, if anyone is says Facebook user, you want to know how to put your name in, I'll put the link up again. But yeah, maybe I'll just start the stream with that link so people know to give Facebook or to give StreamYard permission. Fake it till it's real. That's right. That's what we say. Fake it till it's real. Let's see. So, okay, we've got. Hold on. So, hello to everyone on YouTube. Let me just get my agenda real quick. Hello to everyone that's on YouTube. You can find us at Ben Peaches Publishing or Storytellers. It's kind of linked all together in one name. So, but a great shout out to everyone on YouTube. Hello, YouTube people. We're also on Instagram. I haven't posted anything on Instagram because I've been doing edits and finishing off Blood Lessons and getting into that story. So it's been like all my brain energy has been kind of focused in Blood Lessons and finishing it off and then getting it ready for the art. And then now I'm dealing with the notes from the art and dealing with edits. So it's like I haven't really been on Instagram much. I mean, I kind of skim it, but I'm not really on it. So I have to really get on it. But if you want to find us on Instagram, it's at Ben Peaches. That's where you can find us. The little excerpts from the story, so we're there. Yeah, I really haven't been on Instagram. Welcome, Craig. #villains. I haven't really been on Instagram, but I have heard that it's been a little funky lately. So I guess it's for the best that I'm not on it right now. ZAZZLE, M&S, go to our ZAZZLE store, get your swag. That's EMANDES. We have plenty of swag, and Dolly's going to be working on more swag. So go get your stuff. It's awesome. I can't even go into that store now because I want to get like one of everything. Yeah, so crazy. If you're a recent Patreon subscriber, member, Well, welcome. If I don't have the list right here. Dolly will provide it to if we have any new members because she keeps on top of all of that. She's here. She's the one that just made me my fantastic JAVAMBROSIA. So I'm not flying solo today. She'll let me know if we have any new patrons. But to all the current patrons, I'm working on the next story for December. It's awesome. It's gonna be so much fun, and I think you're gonna like it. So I can't say any more because it's for the Patreon members. But it's Monty and Simon and coffee. That's about all I can say. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yes, Craig, I am seeing your name this week. Hashtag villains, for sure. Let's see. The newsletter, I haven't written the newsletter for the same reason I haven't been on Instagram. I've been busy kind of just focusing on getting blood lessons done. I wanted to get it done by the time I said I would get it done. I didn't want to push back the deadline because I try to be very diligent and disciplined about deadlines. So it needed to get done by the 9th, 10th, and it did. And now it's mid-shred with the art. So they've unleashed the claws, and they're shredding it even as we speak. And then the art will be closed on Sunday, and I really finish the last edits because I edit the notes as they go along, and then I get another edit over the weekend, and then it'll be out, hopefully, I'm saying Monday, Tuesday, the 17th or the 18th, it should be out live. Of course, it's going to be out for the MoB at the MoB price, which is always 99 cents for the first day. And then after that day, it goes to the usual price, which I believe right now is, I want to say $5.99 or $6.99, something like that. I know it's hovering one of those prices. I know because they change every few months or years, that price changes, but it's at $6.99, I think. But if you're on KU, it's not an issue. You can send edits, Marie, until noon Sunday. By noon Sunday, which is a hard limit, no more notes are received, so it's closed by noon Sunday. And then, because I'm still working on them, so by noon Sunday, that's it. It's closed, and I can catch up and finish, and then get on getting it ready to publish. Let's see. The newsletter will go out. What's today? What day is it today? Eesh, the 14th. So it should go out in a week or so, the newsletter. Yeah. What time do I have now? I work on EST, so the same time you have, Marie, 11:41. I'm on your time. So noon Sunday EST. I'm sorry I didn't say that. Noon EST, my time. I'm in New York, so it's noon EST. All right, so the newsletter will go out next week. I'm thinking about next week it should go out. And BookBub, as always, go find us on BookBub and leave a review. It's easy to find us on BookBub because you just type in my name, you can find me on BookBub. Same thing for Binge Books. You can join, add your reviews, and you can find a whole bunch of books there. Oh, so Marie, for you it's 6:30. For me it's 11:40. So kind of figure. I don't know exactly where you are, but that's my time. So whatever EST, noon EST in New York translates to you, that's when the art closes. Oh, you got donuts for the show. Nice. I got coffee for the show. I think it's apropos considering it's a coffee clutch. That's a big time difference, Marie. Yeah. So just be aware that you have until noon my time to put in the last few edits. And of course, we have Peaches over here hanging out with us. So how are you guys doing? I hope everyone is well. You can ask any question, Blood Lessons, but I can't give you spoilers. If it's a spoiler, I will let you know it's a spoiler. You won't sleep Saturday. Okay, I hope you don't have that many notes. Dolly, when she does notes, yeah, she dials down, she drills in really good. So I don't know if some of you read Blood Lessons, if you're in the art, please don't put any spoilers, but if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to ask them, yes. And today, unlike usual, because this is like the Seinfeld of, actually, yeah, I knew an Edith growing up, Audrey. I'll get to what today's, we're gonna discuss a topic, because usually the show is about, it's about a lot of everything. So I always equate it to like a Seinfeld episode. It's a show about nothing, but it's about everything. But yes, Audrey, I knew an Edith growing up. When I was very young, my mom had a friend named Edith. And I always equated Edith with a grandma name. Like, you know, like It's the Ediths that I always knew or heard of were always already elderly or older. And so I always figured I wanted a name that was kind of like that. It's not really in use any longer. And so Edith felt like an older name, like a throwback to a different generation, you know? Like, yes, Wendy, Simon endures horrific pain. Spoiler alert. Yeah, that's pretty much every book. Yeah. But Edith was a really good name for this character, I think. I felt that it was a good name for her. It kind of encapsulated who she was, who she kind of came across as. And yeah, she was a good character. She's a good character in a bad way, but she's a good character. Yeah. But thank you, Audrey. I thought it was a good name. It kind of fit. When I was coming up with the antagonist for this story, I needed a name that fit her, and Edith was the perfect name for that. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, this works. Not this story, Tammy, unfortunately. I think it's due for another renovation in about 2 books. And this may be happening when there's going to be a novella with Dex and Nana, and it might be due for renovation then in that story. I think Dex might take up the mantle of Tate Destroyer. So we'll see. But it's definitely due for a renovation. And Monty and Simon can't go to the UK for a little while after what happened with Kane. So they're going to kind of stay away from the Penumbra Consortium and Verity over in the UK. They may not get over there for a little bit, but they may be forced to go by book 20. So we're on book 17. No, actually book 19 is when they go over. That book is called Lost Runes, and they have to go over there because there's a side trip past Stonehenge. If you remember in Stormblood, Joe's home in the forest, there was kind of a henge around where she lived. Well, they're gonna have to go by Stonehenge to deal with some of the lost runes. Like the henge itself, the configuration points to some lost runes. So they're gonna be in the country, and they may just pop in and, you know, destroy the Tate on the way out, something like that, you know? Yeah, the Tate is Kenny from South Park. I just saw someone sent me, because of the whole Tate destruction, someone sent me an article about the Tate being renovated, and I thought it was hilarious because they were asking me, was Monty and Strong, were they in the neighborhood because it had been renovated? I think they're doing some work on it or expanding it or something, you know? So they sent me this picture with the Tate with scaffolding and stuff like that. I said, this is post Monty and Strong. It was great. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I think I should contact whoever's running the Tate and let them know that we destroy it regularly. But I don't think they'll let me in because really, I think it's the second one, Marie. I think they banned me for life before destroying it repeatedly, you know? Tracy asked me when I was in England, did I visit the Tate? Yes, Tracy, several times actually. I used to walk the Thames in the morning, and the Thames where I was, because I was staying in Shepherd's Bush, so I would walk from Shepherd's Bush to the Thames, to the London Eye, right? And from there, from the London Eye, you walk down the Thames towards Canary Wharf, I think it is, that way. And you walk right past the Tate. And so several times I would walk, then I would go in and then hang out and look. And each time I would leave with a sense of profound disappointment of all this space misused. Oh, my co-pilot's here. Hello.
Hi.
So all this space misused, and then what passed as art. I guess I'm not I don't love the modern art that much. So welcome, Jasmine. You're not late, you're here, and that's what's good. And tell Stacy I said hello and love to the family. So yes, Tracy, I did go to the Tate several times. And yeah, each time I went, I didn't leave with a sense of, oh, it was like the second time I went wasn't better than the first. The third wasn't better than the second. So it didn't really improve each time I went. And I got to see the exhibits, and yeah, let's just leave it at that. I don't want to, speak badly of a museum because I love museums. But that one, I don't know what it is. That one in particular, out of all the museums I've seen quite a few, that one in particular just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know what to say. It's just like, I think it's the architect in me, in my brain. Like, I'm looking like the space, I didn't utilize it properly. Why did it take the space and not use it the way they could have? And so, yeah, it's that bad, Enid. Yes. Oh, when she, you know, we haven't even looked into the stuffed animals, right, baby? That's okay. We're gonna look into it. Dolly will get on it to see what's happened after post-COVID. If any of these places have come back, and we'll look into how we can get the peaches out to people, because peaches is awesome. So, yeah. So yes, Enid, it is that bad. It's, yeah. You could probably Google the inside. You could probably take a Google trip inside the building and see if it's really that bad. But I don't know. I mean, with the new exhibits they may be having, maybe it's better now. Also, you have to understand that the generation I'm from, I'm a little less young. We come back with, we come with these preconceived ideas of what a museum should look like. But when I went to the National Museum, oh, we do have new patrons, okay. When I went to the National Museum, also in the UK, first of all, let me give you the contrast. To go to the Tate, there was no line to get in. You just walk right in, right? And it's this big space, and you just walk in. You can just walk in, and you pay whatever the entrance fee is, and you're in, right? But to get to the National Museum, and this is an amazing looking museum, inside and out, it was pouring that day, which is okay, this is the norm in the UK, right? It's norm in England, London. But there was a queue, there was a line, the length of the museum. It was insane. Everybody was out there with their umbrellas ready to get in. I'll tell you why. If you ever see pictures of the inside of the National Museum of London, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's like you've walked in. When you think museum, you think this interior. It's fantastic. And each room, I mean, I had the kids with me. I had the younger tribe. They didn't want to leave that day. It was just from room to room, and every room was breathtaking. It was like, wow, and amazing. That was a museum for me. That was a museum you could spend not one day, you could spend a month in that place and still not see the entire museum. It's that big and that interesting. Oh, Peaches might be the star. Well, yeah, I mean, he's in, I don't know, what book is he not in? I think he's in pretty much every book. What he's not, what someone pointed out to me is Peaches is not on any cover, which is interesting, but it's true. And that's deliberate. But Peaches isn't on any other covers except for his own story, which is A Proper Hellhound and The Brew and Chew. Other than that, you don't see Peaches on any cover of Monty and Straw. So we do have new patrons. Oh no, I lost the patrons, baby. All right, so shout out to our new patrons, Renee. Hello, Renee, thank you for being a patron. And Groove72, whoever Groove72 is, thank you for being a patron. Fantastic. Thank you, baby. Awesome. From what I understand, most people get that Peaches is the star of the story. So, like even in Blood Lessons, so if you've noticed in a few of the stories, he hasn't been as vocal, I guess I want to say, or as involved in terms of like speaking a lot. He'll have some comments or conversation with Simon, but he hasn't had that much of like a central role, even though he's always central because he's always with Simon. But next few books, he's gonna have a more active role. But he is the star of the story. All right, Marina says, sorry, a question. If I don't manage to go through the whole book by Sunday, can I keep the arc? You can keep reading it, yeah. Once you have the arc, you can read it. It's not, but it's going to be different because it's going to be edited. So I don't know if you want to keep reading it. It's not going to be the finished version. So you might want to just save it, but put it. But you're going to want to get the published book for sure. It's okay, Dolly. You can get to it when you get to it. Really? Anthony H is Group 72. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony Hudson. Yes. Let's see. Peaches is not the start. He's the center of strong. Right. To mess with Peaches, you mess with strong. Exactly. That's why they're bond mates. And he's actually, I've always described Peaches as the emotional center of that world of Mountain Strong. Peaches is that kind of like that anchor that ties everything together. Yeah. So, but yeah, Marie, you'll have 2 different versions. That's all. So I thank you. I appreciate that you're gonna get it, but it'll be different. It'll be like radically different. So as long as you don't mind that, for sure, you can hold on to it. Yeah, I don't request the art copies back. That's not, because it's not the finished book, and you guys are going through you're being generous with your time and your insights by going through it, so you should be able to hold on to it and read it. Just know that it'll be different from the finished book. So today, I wanted to discuss this with all of you and get your thoughts on it. And, you know, let's have some back and forth and some feedback on it, because it's come up a few times in the past. And so maybe we can help aspiring authors with this. And so I think it's gonna be one of the questions later on too. But what's some advice? I mean, I'm gonna apply it to myself first, obviously, but what's some advice that we have for creatives who haven't been able to express their creativity as much as they would like? So I'd like to hear your thoughts, because I'm sure there are a lot of creatives here. It doesn't mean it has to be writing. It could be painting, it could be drawing, it could be sculpting, it could be woodwork. It doesn't matter as long as it's a creative expression. So how did you get started? What prompted you to actually take that plunge and to do whatever it is that you consider creative expression? And how can we help others do the same thing? Because sometimes, for me personally, my opinion is that it's a matter of fear, and it doesn't need to be fear. It could be fear of success. It could be fear of rejection. It could be fear. There's a lot of fears involved in the general umbrella of fear, right? So how did you guys start? If you started, what's holding you back if you haven't started? And this is a good moment to take a look and see at what might be kind of standing in the way for you, and maybe we can get around that or over it or under it and get it started. So go. I'm gonna take a long pull of coffee, as I say in the books. Awesome. Yeah, and that's what I've seen a lot, Chris. Like, most people who are creative aren't creative in just one area or one venue. You know, they're creative across the board in their life, and it has different expressions as they go through life, you know? Oh, so yeah, that's a good reason too, Tammy. What's the quote? If there's a book that you want to read, but it doesn't exist, you have to write it, right? And in your case, it's not so much the book, it's the amazing leather that you create, right? So for you to have the leather that you create, the stuff that you create, like I should showcase the bag. To have that, you really would have to, I think, more than 4 figures, probably closer to 5, if you really wanted to get unique, custom-made things like what you want, like you make. So that makes sense. So you said, okay, instead of trying to look for it, I'm just gonna create it. Not that it's easy to create, because it's still, you got to get the machines, and the machines are probably pricey. I can imagine they are. And then you have to have the expertise to use the machines too, and to be able to get the patterns and to put it together, have the creativity to do that, right? Jasmine says, I'm not super creative, but I think people need to realize that everyone isn't going to like it, and that's okay. Jasmine, that is so key. I mean, I can't put it any better than that, because the way we as creative individuals, when you create something, the most natural reaction, the most natural expectation is that everyone will like it. And when you find that not everyone likes it, especially in terms of like subjective mediums like art or film, things like that, not everyone's, but one person goes and gushes over and go, oh my God, it's so great. Another person goes, I don't know why you even like that. It's horrible. That happens. And as a creator, you have to be okay with that, which is why I always tell writers, you got to develop rhino skin. You got to be able to deal with someone not liking your work, right? Your art, no matter the media, is still amazing, and if you want to share it, you should, because it'll resonate with someone. And that ties in, Jasmine, to the whole, every writer, author has a reader somewhere. Like, there's a reader for your work. You just have to keep kind of not giving up, persevere, keep writing, keep trying to share it with the world. Sooner or later, someone's gonna read that and go, wow, this really resonates with me. You know, the key is not to give up, right? And that's really the key there. Thank you, Jasmine. That's fantastic. But I think that real wisdom in that one is that not everyone is going to like what you create. That's so important. And every creative needs to not only embrace that, but internalize that. You know, that's really important. What's Craig saying? There's a reason art is in the eye of the beholder. No two people have the same fields of experience. It's so true. It's like even two people watching the same movie will tell you, one will tell you that was great, one will tell you, oh, that movie was horrible, it sucked. And they're watching the same film. But I think it's also the experience that each person brings with them into whatever they're experiencing, right? So two people watching the same thing or reading the same book or watching the same painting, one is touched and moved, and one is like, it doesn't really do anything for me. Same painting, doesn't change. But the person viewing it has a different filter of experience, like you said, and that's really key. Thanks, Craig. I think that's really important. It's in the eye of the beholder. Tammy, I can only imagine. So I have personal experience with sewing, not because I did it, but my mom was a seamstress, and so we had a sewing machine at home, and she would sew all the time. It's like constant. That's what she did. In addition to being like a university professor and everything. So she was a seamstress. She knew how to sew, and we were always very careful to stay away from the sewing machine, amidst many yells and screams that we should stay away from the sewing machine because we would lose a finger. Never really did, but it kept us away, so it kept us safe. But I can only imagine that sewing leather is even harder because of the material. You need a really powerful machine to punch through leather. So I remember my mom was just doing regular fabric, like cotton, you know, regular fabric, soft fabrics. Leather, I can only imagine the power the machine must have to be able to go through, punch through leather easily. All right, let's see. What's this? Jasmine says, lately with cancel culture and online bullies, having people pull books is sad. That is sad, because it could have been a book that someone enjoyed. But Jasmine, book banning has been around forever. You know, as long as there have been people who didn't like what was written, and there are people who feel that no one should read whatever it is that they don't like. That's always going to exist. And you just have to be able to deal with it. You know, it's funny because every time I read about book banning, usually what happens with the books that are banned, it creates more, like more tension for the book being banned, and everybody else wants to go read it because it's been banned. So usually the people who are banning the books, it's usually a reverse psychology in effect, because they ban the book and then all of a sudden there's this furor around the book, there's a tension, and everybody wants to go read the book that's been banned. It's crazy. So it's actually that they're shooting themselves in the foot by trying to ban certain books. Facebook user says, I write stories as if you write it down, you are not just daydreaming. True, you should try to get them down. Not only because it's just daydreaming, but if you don't write it down, they don't have a tendency to stick around. They're great ideas, and then after a while, they kind of evaporate. But when you write it down, you can build on that, right? You can, let's say you have an idea for a great story, and you're just thinking about it. Eventually, you're going to stop thinking about it because life happens, and you're going to get busy, you're going to do something else, and you didn't write it down. So, and this is my opinion, and this isn't, you know, the way it always is, but this is my opinion. You get the idea for a great story, you don't do anything with it, you don't write it down, you kind of forget it, and for some reason, or the way it happens is that story idea ends up with another author who does chase it and write it and publish it, and then you look at that book and go, I had an idea for that, and why didn't I write it down? That's just the way things are. I think there's just this pool of ideas, and they kind of gravitate to certain authors, and if the authors don't act on them, it goes to another author. So this is why you should write your ideas down. I think it's important. And also, it motivates you to do something about it, not just daydream, right? So now, Wendy wants to know if I have stock in Band-Aid. Why would I have stock in Band-Aid? You know, People get hurt all the time, Wendy. I don't need stocking Band-Aid yet. Maybe soon. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because I'm like, I don't need stocking Band-Aid. At this point, I think Tammy just has like bandages everywhere, or has really, really, really hard, like steel skin, so it doesn't bother her anymore. Chris says that leather is the hardest thing to sew. I can imagine. It is. It's just a hard material. Yeah. I always thought it weird that sewing is both fabrics and crops. Different sewing. One is SE, one is SO. But yes, it's still sewing, isn't it? Pretty amazing. Audrey says, growing up, some Mark Twain books were banned from. Really? I didn't encounter that with Mark Twain growing up. So, but I grew up back when Mark Twain was still alive. So we had the original audio because he would just tell stories in our school. That's how old I am. A lock stitch sewing all resembles a harpoon. Jeez. Occasionally went through the layers, surprise, and probably your fingers too. So yeah, I could see that. Wow. I could, because my mom used to do some interesting sewing, and some of the needles, which were scary, thick and big, looked dangerous. Yeah. So the book gains a forbidden allure. Exactly, Wendy. So when people try to ban a book, or organizations or whatever try to ban a book, all they do is attract more attention to it. So it's not going to do what it's not going to work as intended, put it that way. Exactly, Chris. Thoughts in the ether. So you're an author or a writer or an aspiring writer. You have this thought. As a matter of course, this is my opinion, you should find a way to get it down. Write it down somehow. You may not pursue it now, you may pursue it later, or you may mature out past that idea, because that does happen too. But you should, when you get these thoughts or these ideas or what ifs, what if is such a great question, right? What if? And then write it down, get it down, because it's coming to you for a reason, right? And so you should try to get as many of these ideas down as possible, because one of them could become something that you pursue long term, right? Ideas migrate, but they can come back. Exactly. So you may write it down, you may forget it for a little while, and then you may come back to it. And maybe, because I've even seen interviews with Neil Gaiman, who says he had this great idea for a story, but he wasn't mature enough as a writer to pursue the story. So he wrote this idea down, he put it aside for a while, he grew as a writer, and then later on, when he could actually pursue the story, he was able to write the story. But he had the idea early on, he just knew that writing it wouldn't do it justice. It wouldn't be the story that he wanted to tell. He didn't know how to do that yet. So sometimes as a writer, what we need to do is get the ideas down, and meanwhile, while we have these ideas, while this is happening, we start educating ourselves on what it means to be an author, what it means to be a writer. We start studying the craft, because it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. That whole 10-year overnight success, it takes time. So while you get these great ideas, you start reading, you start studying, you start realizing maybe this idea is worth pursuing, but maybe this other idea isn't. Or right now I can't write that idea because I don't even know enough about the subject, or I don't know enough about how to convey that in a way that gets my idea across in an interesting and riveting way. So you put it to the side and you study, you start learning, you start developing, you start writing other things that start honing your craft. That's important, Let's see, Craig says the same things happen with inventions. The gestalt psyche of humanity wants things out in the world. This is very true, and I agree. Yes. There's that tipping point, right? That happens. That the invention, you have the early adapters, you have the people that are waiting to see if it's really going to happen, but eventually everyone embraces it, right? You can see that easily with cell phones. It happens on a consistent basis. Tam said, I think that was for me and all my needles. Right, yeah, the bleeding, you get stuck a lot. I know that because it used to happen to my mom. And she had these metal thimbles that she would wear, but it was like a specially designed one. And yeah, it's amazing. The Mark Twain ride a T-Rex to my school, uphill both ways in the snow. Yes, did you know the school in the neighborhood? Same place, yeah. That's exactly what he did. And every so often, he let us kids slide down the back of the T-Rex in the snow. It was like the most awesome slide. So yeah. Have I tried one of those chainmail gloves to protect from knife work? I've never, but I'm sure Tammy either has something like that or has skin that's just as tough. So yeah. And oh, you see, that's a perfect example. So you had these books that were banned when you were younger, the Mark Twain books, and what happened, what ended up happening somewhere, this remained somewhere in your brain, in the back of your mind somewhere, and you hunted down those books to read them. And it's like that, it's also the human nature. What's forbidden is wanted, kind of thing. But more so when it comes to creative things. So, like even in art, there was certain art that was banned when it first came out because it was too revealing or whatever the case may be. It was too risque, and people said, "No, I don't." We're gonna watch. We're gonna look at this art anyway, even if we have to do something illegal to do so. I remember growing up. We had snuck a book of Robert Mapplethorpe into school. Now this is high school, and that created a whole big thing because it's not appropriate. It was and our art teacher. This is now like 11th, 12th grade, but it was a whole big thing. That became a controversy because it's not the appropriate thing for kids. We were teenagers, but for kids, and so that again, but it's the forbidden nature of things, right? So yeah. Chris is saying, my first book, I had the basic plot since 1980, and you couldn't write it until last year. And that's what happens. So yeah, it's you have to wait till you're ready in a way. If you try to force it, it won't come out as a story that you want to tell. It'll come out, but it may not be the way you want to tell it, or it may not resonate with the readers that it needs to resonate with. Same thing happened to me with Monty Strong. And I've told this story many times. I was in the middle of sepia blue when Monty Strong hijacked me and said, "You're gonna have to write this now." But I had been getting ready for Monty Strong since I started writing, and it was in that moment that it kind of just said, "Okay, now is the time to write it." And so I put sepia on hold, and I went to Monty Strong. But I had already written several stories that were very close to what Monty Strong would eventually become. And you just have to do that. Also, there are no age limits on creativity and expression. I totally agree, Jasmine. That's like, for me, I think it's key that if you have kids who want to start something creative, let them start. Because that's how you learn. You make the mistakes. And we don't even want to call them mistakes. Just make them like you make your first attempts. And you keep growing from there, and that's what happens. Chris says I was a beta reader for many authors since 2017. Right, that's how you learn. Exactly. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know you can wear those fingertip leather gloves to avoid cuts. That's interesting. Craig, take care. Hoping you're feeling better. Keep us posted about the situation, Craig. So that way we know. And sending you much, much, much positive thoughts and energy, and stay healthy, okay? Always enjoy the day. Through DM, for sure. Villain, out. Hashtag out. Yeah, I don't know about, I don't know what the starving animals to create art is. I've never heard of that, but that's not something I would support. Because that's, again, everyone has an idea what art could be, but for me, if you have to harm someone or something to create your art, it changes for me what the definition of art is. So that's not something I could get behind. If you're gonna starve animals to create art, I don't even know what kind of art that would be. That would be a big no for me. Heather says she's been writing off and on since high school and only got serious in the last year. And that's how it happens sometimes, especially when we're young. We'll write a whole bunch of things and we'll write stories and we won't think it'll go anywhere, but you'd be surprised how all those stories that you've written when you were younger are like seeds when you get older and you start kind of going back to those stories, back to those ideas, and you start building on them and start creating them. So it's pretty amazing stuff. Yes, Enid, I agree. That's what it is, for sure. Which is, see, I'm very wary to say something is not art because everybody has a different interpretation of what art is. But if you have to harm a being to create your art, then it's not art for me. That's basically my position on that, you know? So, okay, so we've discussed some of these. So how do you get started? You've got a story. It's simmering. It's in there. How do you get started? What happened? What has to happen for you? I mean, because everyone's different, right? Everyone has a different way of approaching this. It doesn't have to be a story. You get an idea for a painting, or you get an idea for a piece of work, or building something creative. How do you get started? Because that's really the hard part for a lot of. I can speak from the point of view as a writer, right? The hard part for a lot of writers is the actual starting. Not so much the writing itself, even though the writing is work, but the inception, the actual writing. So how do you get started, you know? Yeah, we're not dealing with the castrati though. Facebook user. Who's that Facebook user? Is that Paige? Yeah, Paige. Yeah, but they were art and for their time, right? But different sensibilities have changed over time. So yes, but we're not dealing with that exactly, you know? But yes, like I said, everyone has, it goes back to what I was saying. Every expression of art has someone who can appreciate it. They exist, you know? So there you go, see? And that's okay. Everyone has their own way of expressing things, and everyone has their own way of appreciating things. So, how do you get started? No one has an idea how to get started? Well, how do you think you should get started? That might be a better way of framing it. Because you have to overcome, what do you have to overcome to start a creative endeavor? Just do it. Yeah, now we sound like Nike commercials, right? Just do it. But it's easy to say just do it, but you have to overcome a few things. You have to overcome, I think the first thing you have to overcome is fear. So it's this fear of, what if I do this and no one likes it? So the fear of rejection, right? I think that's the first one. One word after another, right? Because if you're a pantser, you can just let it flow. But the problem for me when I was panting is that if you depend on the flow to happen, some days you will write tons, and then some days, weeks, months, you won't write anything. So that can be a problem later on for you to create work on a timely basis, or unless you're going to create something at the end of your life, which again is an option. You don't do anything and then you just wait until the muse hits you, like some writers do. I just wait till the flow hits me. There's nothing wrong with that, but it also means that you're going to be dealing with a project for a very, 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 very long time because the muse comes and goes, right? Let's see. Oh, it just says ask for advice but ignore unsolicited opinion. That's a good one. You can always ask for advice and take what works and, you know, leave what doesn't. That also helps too. And when you take advice, you have to understand that in the taking or the asking of advice, it's not law. It's just an opinion or a different way of doing things that you may not have thought about. That can also help. You know, it's like, oh, you know, how did you do this? And I always, when I speak to writers or authors, new authors, I say, this is what worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but this is what worked for me. And so when I frame it that way, they can get a different opinion or a different method that may or may not work for them. But like Audrey says, you ask for advice and you ignore unsolicited opinions. Let's see. You just let the words and ideas flow. There's pros and cons to that, Marie, for sure. Then you go back and spit and polish and shine. Yeah, but we do that with every story, right? Because every book needs that spit and polish. No one writes a perfect first draft. Not to date. No author has written one draft and then I'm done. It's perfect. Even at the editing and polishing, there's still going to be errors because that's just the nature of writing, right? But the first draft is always going to be, oh, okay, this needs to get fixed. So there's pros and cons to just letting the words flow. And it's like Chris said, if you wait for the muse, you're gonna be waiting a long time. Because I've done that. I've waited for the day when the mood struck me. Okay, I'm gonna write when that muse comes, and yeah, no. And there's this great quote. I forget. I'll find out the author. It says, "Take that muse, chain it to the chair, and get to writing." And I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like that. Or chase the muse with a club and get to writing, because if you wait for the muse, it's too ephemeral. It's too out there. You're gonna be waiting, like Chris said, a long, long, long time. Like Jasmine's saying, you can always change and edit later, but at least start. You cannot edit a blank page. It's really hard to do that. I have yet to see anyone who can edit a blank page. This is hard to do, Let's see, for me, it's taking the first cut in the fabric. I fear I'll not get it right, and we'll have to buy more. Right, and that's basically the same thing in any creative endeavor, right? That first cut, those first words, that first sentence, the first brush stroke. It's that initial expression of the creativity is hard to do and to commit to. It's that commitment, right? That's the hard part that kind of paralyzes a lot of creatives, because that fear of getting it wrong, right? But if you're creating it, there really is no wrong way, is there? Because it's your creation. So if you think it's wrong, there's, like Marie says, you always go back, spit and polish. Jasmine, like you said, you can remember, you can always change and edit later. If you make the wrong first cut, then you learn, okay, that's not the cut I want to make. You may have to go buy more fabric, but at least you learn, I don't want to make that cut, because, I can imagine Tammy working with leather. If you make a bad cut with leather, that's going to be, let's see. Oh, here we go. Leather's just as bad. You literally had to change the color of the Warden coat I made for myself because I needed more hides. That's got to be tough. Realized when I cut out the pattern piece and started placing on hides, went to the shop. Yeah, so it's the same thing, right? Let's say you write 4 chapters and you realize this isn't going to work, or I've written myself into a dead end, you either have to go back to the beginning or cut pieces out or remove pieces or shuffle them around, because now the story can't progress. So I'm speaking to this as from the point of view as an author, but this applies to all creative. And if you do a couple of brush strokes and then you realize that's not the color I wanted to use, now you have a choice of either covering that color if it can be covered, or getting a new canvas or a new piece of paper and start the drawing over. But you learn in the process, and you learn by taking those steps and in loosely and making mistakes or making attempts that don't work out, right? So let's see, that mood not just struck you. So I'm going back because the feed is moving quickly. Opinions do not equal fact, truth. Audrey, that's one that should be blazed everywhere for every author, every creative. Opinions do not equal the fact or truth. That's so important. I've known so many authors who let themselves be sidetracked by others' opinions. It's sad. Butt in chair. Yeah, Sitzfleisch, as Stacy tells me. Sitzfleisch. You gotta sit your butt in the chair and get the work done. Marie says that mood not just struck you with M&S. It didn't just strike me with M&S. It's been around most of my writing, but it had its expression in M&S in a very particular way. That it kind of, it was like always forming, and then it kind of came to its right form when I started writing M&S. So yes. Chases yours with a butterfly net. Yeah. You want to start grabbing them a little faster. Jasmine says, surround yourself with good support that will give you honest and kind feedback. That's really important too. With the caveat that the honest and kind feedback is still just an opinion, and that you have to develop rhino skin from the get-go, from the beginning. Because even honest and kind feedback can derail you, because what the person might be considering as honest and kind feedback might be saying, you shouldn't write anymore, or you shouldn't paint anymore. I'm just being honest, and you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. They may be thinking they're honest and they have every good intention for you, when inside this is something you need to do. So the caveat there is, yes, it's honest and kind feedback, but with the knowledge that it's not, like you were saying, opinion is, Audrey was saying, opinion is not truth. It's not It's not the ultimate truth. So there you go. But it's important to have people who will be honest with you, but at the same time, be kind with the honesty. Because I know some people who give critiques, and it's like they pull out a sword. All right, I'm going to give you a critique now, and they slash at you with the critiques. So it has to be a combination of both. Yes, for sure. Like drawing, I can doodle for days before I start doing the whole. Yeah, exactly. And I think that in those doodles, what you're doing is you're getting the ideas out, right? The ideas coming out and kind of taking its form. And then before you know it, you actually start the actual drawing. But there's this kind of lead up time. And with stories, it happens almost the same way. Like a story has to sometimes simmer. Like if I have a story problem and I'm trying to unravel it, I'll do something else and I'll distract my brain. But basically what I'm doing is I'm letting the story simmer and kind of cook as in the background while I'm doing something else. And it's very much like the doodling, right? I'll think about ideas of the story. I'll think about characters and what they're doing. And so I'll let that kind of sit for a while, not too long, because then forget, I'll just, you just start doing other things. But also let it sit for a day or so, and then I'll come back to the story kind of with a different perspective. And I think that's very much like mental doodling in a way. Yeah, that's a good visual, Enid. Marie says it punched you and threw me to the floor. Yeah, Monty, the whole Monty Strong inception idea, origin of it, it was that I was in the middle of a story, and this is usually what happens to writers. I don't know about other creatives, but you could be in the middle of a story, and you're deep in the middle of a story, and that's when you get your ideas, which is why I always say, if you want ideas, work, write stories. Because what happens is, as you're writing stories, other stories come to harass you. In the case of Monty Strong, that story didn't come to harass me. That story came and got me in the headlock and said, okay, now you're going to write this. So, but it only comes to you while you're in the middle of things, right? You're writing a story, you're in the thick of it, and all of a sudden this other idea starts whispering. It starts as a whisper, and then it starts louder and louder, and then it's yelling at you. So what I do in those instances is to write that idea down, and that basically quiets the voice just enough for me to finish what I'm currently working on, and then I can get back to that idea, Laura, thank you for being here. Have a great weekend. Thank you for visiting. Let's see. When writers are staying off into space, we're thinking, yes. And that you need time to do that too, right? You need time to allow your thoughts to wander and to kind of just go off into space. And it does look like you're just looking off into space, daydreaming, basically. But that is really important. You need to be able to give yourself time to do that as a creative, as a writer, as an artist. You need to be able to give yourself time to explain or explore things, right? Also, you got to take care of yourself as a person, as a human, as an artist, because if your health is not where it needs to be, it's very hard to be creative, right? Because you're dealing with the health issues. So go out for a walk. I mean, if it's freezing, it may be a little hard, but take time to go out for a walk. Take time to take care of yourself. Listen to some good music, stuff that you enjoy. Eat good food, not to excess, please, because then that creates another health issue, right? But eat good food, have good company. Like really take care of yourself so that when you sit down to do what you want to do, that's creative, you have a positive life around you. It's really important. Who's this Facebook user? Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca Birasa. Oh, okay. Hi, Rebecca. I need to remember not to buy supplies until I'm ready to start the project. My supply bins. Right. And what happens is like sometimes, so like we recently went to Michael's and I had to physically kind of stop myself from going into the place with the journals. Because I can look right now, I have like 5 journals and that's low. I've had more. But that's like 5 journals. I go into Michael's and I think, okay, I gotta buy journals so I can do outlines. But I have like a bunch of journals that I already have that are blank. They're all blank, brand new, untouched. So, and it's the same thing with other projects. You get all these supplies, but you don't really do the project yet. And it's a lot like the doodling. You're getting supplies because you're gonna do this or you can do that. You want to touch this, but you wanna kind of get what's the project gonna be first. and then get the supplies for that project, or else you're just getting supplies, but they don't really have a purpose yet. So it's a lot of it is fine tuning the idea a bit, right? Like when the secret project that I'm writing, I had to read all this, I want to say romance. So, but now I have a much better idea of what it is I want to write. And I have that kind of foundation that I can now write the story. But it took a while, and I didn't go crazy buying romance books. I picked a few that what I thought were a good representation. And I've been able to sharpen and hone the idea a bit. So now I can say, okay, I can write a story that I can write. And so if I decide I got to read every single romance book, I'm going to be here till the end of time, because I think it's the largest genre in writing, you know? So it's basically a matter of setting a bullseye, setting a target, and then working around that target, and then getting your focus so you can start expressing that. Because the other danger, at least for authors, is the research phase. I want to write about this, so I got to research this, and I got to research this, and yet I got to research this, and it becomes this rabbit hole of holes where this research leads to that research, which then leads to that research, and then leads to that research. And before you know it, all you've done is research, and it becomes this big game of procrastination because you don't want to take that first step. And so when someone asks you, so how are you doing? I'm great. I'm just in the middle of the research. I'm getting all the research done first before I can start writing. No, what you're doing is you're putting off the writing because you don't want to take that first step. You know, I do a lot of research, but I'm doing research as I'm writing. I made it a point because I used to do the same thing. I used to spend a lot of time researching. And before I knew it, everything was research, but there was no writing. So you want to, I don't want to say you want to stop researching, because you have to research. You have to make sure that your stories have some authenticity to them. But when you need to research something, either make a note or research in a moment and set yourself a time so you don't just spend the rest of the time researching. Research in a moment, get the details you need, get back to the story, and if you need to add more, you can after the story is done. Or if you're going to do it in the midst, find what you need to get to the next part of the story. And then if more research is needed, make a note somewhere that I need to look into this more. You know, but I always try to research as I'm writing. Like Dolly will see me, I'll have like 100 tabs open. I have this map here, that map there, this country, this item. It's like all this stuff that's happening as I'm writing the story, and I'll look into here and read this really quick and look at this location, and all that's research, but the story is still being written simultaneously. It's really important. Chris has a garage full of rock stones waiting to be turned into gemstones. Right, exactly. You have it takes time, right? Oh, Marie. So let me get to the questions. Hold on, getting to the questions right now. Especially since Marie said, Roxanne and Monty, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You forgot the wink, wink, Marie. All right, let me get to the questions. I can't see the feed, but Dolly can. She's right next to me. So hold on. I'm getting to the questions right now because it's 12:30. All right, first questions. First of all, thank you for all the questions. You guys are amazing with these questions. All right. Audrey asks, what character from a movie could you play perfectly? Jeez, what character can I play perfectly? Dolly says everything. All the good, handsome characters. I'm going to go with Dolly's answer. And the ones who can kick ass. I don't think there's a better answer than that. I'm going with Dolly's answer. All right. Dolly's a question for you. Growing up, did you have a monster under your bed or in your closet? Or anywhere else at all?
Under the bed.
Under the bed. Did you beat that monster? Did you do a Calvin? Oh, it was? Yeah. I had a monster under the bed after I saw Phantasm, because one of the scenes is where the arms come out from under the bed and grab the boy. And I had issues with under the bed for a while after that. Okay. Orlando, there's another question from Audrey. Thank you again, Audrey. What, to you, are the most important elements of good writing? And how would you define good writing? The most important element of good writing, for me, is that you, as a reader, can get lost in the story. And I would define good writing as writing that makes you forget you're reading a book, a story, and immerses you in a world. So you forget that you're reading. Now you're in a world. So think about the process of reading. You're reading these symbols on a page, on a paper, or on your phone. You're reading these symbols, and these symbols are transporting you to a different world or an adventure. If you could do that with writing, if you could get a person to go from just reading words to living in a different world, following other characters, that's good writing. That's irrespective of grammar, typos. If the story can capture you and transport you and take you somewhere else, that's good writing. And I know a lot of authors who had a lot of grammar issues in the beginning, but the story was amazing. And that's what propelled them to be even better writers. Once they got the grammar issues done, taken care of, the stories became even more well known because now you were more immersed in the story. But yeah, that's, for me, good writing is a writing that takes you and puts you in a different world. Whatever that world is in the book, you're in there. Anthony Hudson asks, there was a moment, a quiet, I haven't read these questions, so there might be surprises. There was a moment, a quiet personal moment when you said to yourself that I can do this. I write as well as a lot of these folks out here, and I can support my family through the power of my imagination and a pen. Could you tell us about that moment? Wow, that is an episode unto itself. Did I share that with you, right, man? I know we've shared how many years. When I said I can write better than this, I can write just as good as this, and then I started writing. There were a few books I was reading. I will not mention any author names, but and movie. Oh my God, there were many movies too, where I sat down and I said, rather than experiencing someone else's ideas, which I still enjoy, as you've seen from my critique of The Gentleman, right, or Bullet Train. But rather than experiencing someone else's ideas, I can do this. I can write just as well or even better, and I can do this. And so it wasn't just one moment. It was a lot as a build-up to the moment of I can do this. I can write a story just as good as this. And there were many moments where I was watching movies and I was like, how did this get made? Who greenlit this? So it's a combination of both. It was like the indignation of, you subjected me to this, how? And then the determination that I can write just as well as this. The only time I've never said that was reading Sir Terry Pratchett. That was always just awe. Like, how did he come up with this? And the footnotes even the footnotes had me. So what Terry Pratchett did when I was reading his work was, how can I write as well as he does? That's what it spurred me. So when I would read his work, it would be, I could write well, but I can't write this well. But how can I learn? How can I get to where Terry Pratchett is? Which I'm not there yet, but that's what his work did for me. And I think I managed to get somewhat close sometimes, but I'm not anywhere on that level. But also, like, reading Jim Butcher also helped me do that. Like, I can write just as well as this. There were times I was upset with Jim Butcher because of what he did in his stories. And those moments would be like, I can write a story like this, And so, yeah, it wasn't one moment, Anthony. It was several moments that pushed me to that. Okay, but that was a great question. Yeah, that was a fantastic question. All right, Rena Bessa4 says, when will a new M&S book be out? In about a week from this filming, right now, from this streaming. Will there be more in on Roxanne? Yes, but not for Blood Lessons. Not until book 19, which is Lost Runes. And since she's under protection, yes, that starts coming up to light there. In book 19, book 20, book 21, you start seeing a lot more of Roxanne and Michigo, that issue. Jim Taylor asked also, when is the next book coming out? In about a week from today, I think. No, I'm sorry, in a few days from today. So, like next week, Monday, Tuesday. Or as Chris Christmas says, soon, TM. All right, Chris asked a question. Thank you, Jim Taylor, for the question. Thank you, Rena, for the question. Chris' question is, for writers wanting to be authors, which is what we discussed kind of this episode, besides writing the story book, What should they do next? Art, readers. Read. Geez, it's so important. I'm going back because those are all the questions, right? Those are all the questions? Okay. Reading is important. I read The Rivers of London. I thought it could have been a much, much better story. But even when you read a book that you consider may be better, you still learn what you could do to improve your stories. Like every reading experience is a learning experience for an author. So when I was reading the romance books, everywhere where I felt resistance internally was where I knew I understood that I had to learn how to write those portions of the story, of the romance, right? The moments when I was like, oh, why are they dragging it out? Why is all, and I would complain to Dolly. I realized after a while that I have to learn how to write that convincingly so that that element of the story can be conveyed in a way that people enjoy. So as a writer, what to do next, if you haven't started writing, is read a lot. Read everything that you can. Don't just read what you want to write. Read different things that may not necessarily motivate you in a sense, but they will teach you. So I've read so many different kinds of things. And so when I come to write urban fantasy, I draw from so many different sources because I've widely read so many different material, you know? So yeah, let's see. So I'm gonna go into the feed a bit. Let's see, bye, Jasmine. I was in the middle. I was on the other page. So if you've already gone, bye, Jasmine. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Audrey. I hope that explanation made sense. I hope it really, because at least for me, great writing has to be great storytelling. So that's really important. And it's getting transported into the story matters more than anything else. So you can fix grammar, but not everyone can come up with a great story. Yeah, I mean, just think about, see a good example that has lasted the test of time. Just think about George Lucas and Star Wars, right? So it's a great story. It may not be by our standards today, a great film because it's aged, right? For its time, it was cutting edge, but right now it can compete in terms of CGI and everything. Back then, there was no CGI. But it's not the effects, it's the story that has made that story last for, I think it's at 40 years now. 40 years, 1984 to now, I think. More? Yeah, so almost 40 years, 38 years, right? But it's also given, I want to say birth, it's created so many different stories in the same universe because of that one story. So that's what great storytelling does, right? Okay, Enid says, your books do that to me, Orlando. I get lost in them. And I'd be highly disappointed if they made a movie. That's my only concern about making a movie, Enid. They'd have to make a series, I think. It lends itself more to a series than one movie. Because the movie, and they always say it, the book is always better than the movie. The reason being is because our imaginations are so much richer than any movie. Because when you see a movie, you're watching the director's imagination, right? But when you read a book, it's your imagination, and you can picture it completely different. That's why so many people get disappointed when they watch a movie that's based on a book that they've read, and they go, that's nothing like how I pictured it, because that's usually what happens, Marie, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Sir Terry was more than a genius. Sometimes the things that he's written, I'm like shocked. Just like, how did he even come up with this? It's, yeah, to this day. Ina says the Simon Man mind is all his mannerisms that maybe an actor can duplicate. Yes, it can happen, but you have to have that. You're making a movie or that kind of adaptation from a story. The casting is so important. Facebook user. Who's the Facebook user that asks about Dex and the 10? Is it Rebecca? Yes, Rebecca. Dex I don't know about the 10, but Dex is always in the mix. Yeah, always. I don't know what you're answering always to, but Marie, but I'm guessing it's to Dex. Yeah. Wendy says, my little laptop's video is off from the audio, adding a rather comedic spin. Oh, it's like a old-time kung fu movie where the words and the lips are out of sync. Ha! So yes, that's basically you need to refresh the page. There's some latency. Marie asked me if I've read Ilona Andrews. No, I have not. No, I know of her. I know who she is. I just haven't read it. Bye, Renee. I hope I caught you before you left. When a reader asks what happens next, you know you have a good story. Yes. Even better, Chris, when you just put a book out and they ask, okay, I finished that one. Where's the next book? And you just published the book a day ago, and you're getting asked for the next book a day later or 2 days later. You know you've done your job. You know you've done what you're supposed to do. Like Roland in the Dark Tower had more Eastwood in mind than Idris Elba. Yes. So when I thought of Roland, I didn't think of Idris Elba. I thought of more of a Clint Eastwood type. And the whole story felt more like a Western. And when they did the movie, it didn't feel like a Western. It felt odd, like, I don't know, like a Western set in the city. It was weird the way they went. The direction they went in wasn't wrong. I love both the actors in it. Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba were fantastic in it. But the story itself and the setting felt way off from what I pictured, you know? Okay, let's see. Ryan Reynolds for Simon. Yes, Audrey, of course. We always said Ryan Reynolds for Simon. If there's anyone that's going to play Simon, it has to be Ryan Reynolds. In fact, I'm going to have my people call his people and get it done. And Benedict Cumberbatch for... Do you want Benedict Cumberbatch for Monty? I think he'd be a good Monty. He'd have to grow his hair out, though, to match the covers. So if Benedict Cumberbatch can grow his hair out long and leave it unkempt, he would be a great Monty. Totally. Oh, wow, look at the time. We got to close up the episode. All right, guys, listen. I want to first thank my co-pilot, Dolly, who helps me. First of all, she makes sure that I can survive the Kaffeeklatsch by providing the coffee in the Kaffeeklatsch and notes and stuff like that. Oh, Chris, we had authors to promote. Can we promote the authors? We could do 5 minutes and promote authors. We have links. Chris, I don't know. Discovery of Witches, Wendy says, the video series more than the books, at least the ending. Okay, sure. I didn't see the Discovery of Witches. All right. Yes, we did have a great show today. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to the author links, but let's make sure that next week I'll make a note, and then we can put the next time, because it's 2 weeks from now. So next show, so this is when we know the show's getting really good, when we run out of time and we still have things we wanted to kind of talk about. So we have Ben Zackheim. He has, let me put this up so you guys can look at the link. So Ben Zackheim, Relic Throne, is the last book in his series of the Relic series. So please go get it. Let's support our indie authors and, you know, show our support for them, because they need it. They always need good support, right? So that's Ben Zackheim, Relic Throne. Go get that, please. It'd be awesome. We also have Noah. These are indie authors. Noah, sometimes they get away, and that's okay. It's about villains, I believe. It's a funny story. So Noah's really funny, and he's written a lot with John Logson, and he's writing his own stuff also. So please go get that one. It's Noah K. Sturdivant. So I think I made a play with his name in one of the Mountain Strong books. Sometimes they get away, and that's okay. So go get that book. It's a story from Noah. You're very welcome, Marie. Thank you for being here. Our very own Chris Chrisman has a latest book out, Wild Magic. Is that the second one, Chris? The next? Oh no, that's the second one or the third one. I forget. You're writing so fast now, Chris. Is that the second or the third book in the series, Wild Magic? It's the second. What's the last one? Old Magic? What's the last one, Chris? I forget. Okay, so Chris Chrisman has Wild Magic. This is book 2 in the series. Please go out and get it. It's awesome. And the next one's coming out October 22nd, so soon. So get Wild Magic now. Stay current with the story, and you won't have to wait long for the next book afterwards. So that is awesome. It's coming out October 22nd. So grab that book. Today is what, the 14th? You got a week or so before that book drops. And then after that, book 3 is Old Magic. I don't know when it's coming out. That's up to Chris. But grab this one because it's going to be out in about a week. So make sure you get this one. I don't want to get it mixed up. Is Old Magic coming out the 22nd, Chris? Or is Wild Magic coming out the 22nd? Just so I have it clear. Soon, as Wendy says. Wild Magic is when? The 22nd. Okay, good. So Wild Magic is coming out the 22nd in a week, right? You can pre-order it though, I'm sure. Yes, you can pre-order it. You can pre-order it. So pre-order it. Just go pre-order it. That way you have it. So when it drops on the 22nd, it's already on your devices or you already have it. So we get that. Okay. So again, we have Ben, Chris, Noah, and I'm pretty sure John has his recent Grave Mythos book out too. So I think he released book 3. I think he's working on book 4 now. So go get these books, guys. Go support these authors because they're awesome authors, and we support our indie authors. All right, guys. And I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend. Thank you all for being here. It was awesome to have this time with you and discuss. And if you're a writer or an artist or creative of any kind, I want to leave you with take that first step, make that first cut. I like that. That kind of example. Make the first cut. Do that first brush stroke. Just take the step. Don't be scared. Don't have that fear. Just go out there and do it. And then if you have to start off again, then start off again. Okay? So go for it, guys. And as always, be uncommon.